Hey everyone, you're listening to Hocked Unloaded with writer-director Steve Drake and producer Rachel Franz. This is the podcast where we tell you about how we made our first feature film, Hocked. Each week, we'll bring on a new guest and they'll share their experience of what it was like making this film. In this episode of the podcast, we talk about my background, the many hats I wore as a producer, as well as how we handled the special effects makeup for Hocked. We hope you enjoy it.
Our guest today is Hua.
Hi, I'm Rachel Franz. I work with Steve at Single Six Media. I did a lot of different things on the film Hocked, but we'll talk about all of them later. I'm just going with the title producer. Technically associate producer.
Yep. Tell me about your pawn shop days, Rachel.
I worked with Steve in the pawn shop.
Hold on. What did you think about the pawn shop before you worked in the pawn shop?
I had only been to a pawn shop one time.
What?
Before I worked in a pawn shop.
In Arizona?
Mm-hmm.
What's an Arizona pawn shop like?
Well, I was in band growing up. And so my mom and I just went to a pawn shop one time looking for a saxophone.
Band instruments. Good move.
And my mom was very distrusting of the pawnbroker, and she ended up just ordering a saxophone off eBay instead.
Isn't your family a bunch of gypsies? Basically pawnbrokers?
No, that's on my father's side.
Oh, okay.
My dad's side are basically we're gypsies, and my dad loved pawn shops.
Of course.
I just never went with him. And if my dad had been there, I bet you I would have gotten a pretty good deal on a saxophone that day.
Most likely.
But my mom was just like terrified and didn't know. So I had only had one pawn shop experience before that, and I was in 6th grade.
Okay.
And then, fast forward.
So what'd you think? You're just like, okay, these places are...
It just had a lot of stuff.
It's just kind of cluttered.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, this is just a cluttered
and the one I went to was pretty small.
Okay.
But it was just one of the, the typical pawn shops that said, like, buy, sell gold.
Yeah.
On the side of the building.
Gold, guns, guitars.
Yeah, so.
3 balls.
It was pretty,
We actually don't know what the 3 balls mean. That my mom just always said that she would have said that they're for gold, guns, and guitars.
I always thought they were supposed to represent, like, scales. Like a scale to weigh jewelry.
Why would you have 3, though?
Why? Because I've seen them.
Maybe the middle thing's the middle?
Yeah, I've seen them before where the middle ball is the lowest. So I always just kind of pictured it like a scale. Well, like the scales of justice, similar to that.
I've also heard that it's one of the oldest professions in the world. My grandpa told me that. And way back in the day, it wasn't an arch. It was 3 balls, but they were on a straight, like almost looked like a cross. The balls on the end. There's that image from the pawn shop computer that it's called like Apocalypse. And it was like an old charcoal drawing from 1,000,000 years ago. And in this Renaissance artists
rendering
his rendering of the apocalypse, the pawnbrokers were the only ones making any money, and everyone was on the street like murdering and fucking each other.
Yeah, that's awesome. A little Easter egg for you, that when Booger's punching in the prices that Steve's telling him to for the items they're pulling, the desktop screensaver is what Steve's talking about right now.
Pretty funny.
But that was my only experience, and I moved to Montana years later because I was in a relationship with Steve's best friend, who I'm now married to. And when I first moved here, I had like a serving job and wasn't really going to go to school for a while. So Steve was like, hey, I'll go to school if you want a different job. So I ended up working at the pawn shop with him, mainly to make sure that Cam's best friend liked me and approved of me.
Hey dude, I'm gonna go to film school. Could you like cover for me at the pawn shop? That'd be cool. Yeah. Thanks, Rachel.
Pretty much how that went. And yeah, I mean, Steve and Cam have been best buddies since kindergarten, so I guess his opinion mattered or something.
Just as old as we could touch dicks.
Oh my God. I learned a lot. And my interview, actually, at the pawn shop, Steve thinks he's so funny. I got up early. We lived together at the time, too. I got up so early, and I took a shower and got dressed because I was going to go interview at the pawn shop. And I left my car keys in the bathroom. And Steve goes in and takes a shower and locks the door. So then I can't get my car keys until he's done with his shower. And I thought I was going to be late. So he gets out of the shower, I grab my car keys, and I run out the door and speed to the pawn shop, which was only like 3 blocks away. And I'm sitting in my car waiting for Corey and Dave to get there to interview me. And Steve rolls up. And he is interviewing me along with Dave and Corey. And I just thought I was going to be so late, and I was so terrified. And he just let me panic. And that pretty much sums up our whole working relationship, is he lets me panic.
Stress is good.
Yep, I worked at the pawn shop for a little over a year, I think. And on my very first day, a guy tried to sell me a box of cereal.
I didn't believe you for a very long time.
No, it's so true.
But I did catch just a glimpse. I was helping some dude buy like a stupid CD player.
He was like an older gentleman.
He had all the questions like, oh, what does this do? Does it plug into my Walkman? That probably didn't happen, but I do remember the guy coming in, him looking kind of frantic, and I was kind of eyeballing him. Well, then I had to go back to the gentleman, and I do remember that he did try to sell you a box of cereal.
Yeah, he pulled this box of Trix cereal. Not a sponsor.
Not a euphemism.
And it wasn't even like back in the day when we were kids, when it was like all the different shapes, like fruit shapes. It was just like, now they're just like colored balls. And he pulled it out and he's like, what would you give me for this? And I started laughing. And he just kept staring at me. And so I said, oh, no, I don't want that. And he got really upset. And I think maybe went on a little rant about why I wouldn't take it. And I think I looked at him and I said, would you go grocery shopping in a pawn shop?
Yes.
And it had somebody else's name written on it, and he got upset, and he got on his bike and rode away. And I remember walking to the door thinking, okay, he's going to come back and be like, oh, it was a joke. Steve told me to do this. It's my first day. Blah. He never came back.
Mm-mm. You can get some pretty good food at a pawn shop. Some really good jerky ones. But I didn't believe in that story until Theron confirmed it and said that a crazy man years ago tried to pawn cereal to him. And I said, Jesus Christ.
I wasn't lying.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty crazy.
Steve discovered this probably this last summer. I think we were swapping pawn shop stories with Theron.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been 4 years since that.
If you ever need a good kick, go to a pawn shop, just walk around a little bit, and if you need a good deal too, just smooth and like butter this guy up just by asking him a couple pawn shop stories, because they always have some good stuff.
Always.
They've seen some weird stuff. So pretty cool. So I'm confused about something, Rachel.
Oh boy. I
didn't know that you enjoyed makeup and disgusting gore effects. You monster. Where'd that come from?
I didn't know it either, to be fair.
Yeah, but you like it like a lot. It's freaky.
I do. I don't know why I never knew I liked it, I guess. But when it came time to make this movie, and Steve was asking me, like, I don't know what we're going to do. A lot of people die in this movie. I don't know what we're going to do to make these people die. And I don't think I said anything right away. I think I went home and I watched some YouTube videos, and I just kind of did a lot of research on some wounds, or domestic assault. I Googled that one a few times and just looked at a lot of fucked up pictures of people that just had the hell beaten out of them. And I did a practice run on myself, and I sent pictures of myself to Steve, and his response, I think, was something along the lines of, holy shit.
Well, Jesus, you're sending me all these fucking pictures, and all of a sudden it'd be like your face, but it looked like you just got the snot kicked out of you, or like Cam sitting on the couch, and there's like a gaping wound on his thigh, and he's just like playing Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Like he didn't really want to help, but he surrendered his leg for Hocked.
He let me... He's going to hate that I told people this, but he let me shave a big chunk of his thigh to do that gaping wound because I used liquid latex for that one.
Oh,
and
you wouldn't want to mess with that.
If you've ever used liquid latex, never ever let it come into contact with hair because it will not let go. And so I shaved a big chunk of his thigh, and I think I even still got a little bit of liquid latex in some leg hair. And so when we removed that prosthetic, it pulled his leg hair out, and he was not happy.
Little yippee.
But he was always willing to be my test dummy.
I guess, what do you think of the makeup overall? I've heard some good things.
Watching it now, I hate it.
Why?
I hate it so much because I had never done special effects makeup on anybody, not even for Halloween, nothing. And so I started ordering materials and different makeups and all kinds of stuff that I just kind of had to play with. And in the moment, I would be really proud of it. And I still think, like, when Lanny's all beat up, that first go around, I still think it looks pretty good for somebody that's never done it before. Seeing how the film got color corrected, I think I would have made everything a lot more dramatic and much brighter because I feel like the overall color correction of the movie is somewhat flat and like desaturated. So
dull.
Which I think is great and reflects on the story, but you lose a lot of the impact and the definition of all the makeup I did. And then the biggest thing that makes me cringe is Lanny's hands. I had no idea how to make his hands all fucked up and broken and just horribly swollen.
They looked great.
Until we turn the lights on.
Until you turn our hot ass lights on.
And
his hand, and he starts bending his hands, which he has to do. He's like fumbling with a gun. He's holding onto a bullet and trying to grab money. And
for people interested, I used scar wax on his hands to kind of model them and everything. And so that's
the round one.
Yeah,
you tried two different things, correct?
So Lanny, I only ever used scar wax, but I used different like ways to set it, and one worked better than the other. And the first time I didn't set it pretty much with anything. I took all the scar wax and you use spirit gum and you wait for it to get tacky and you stick it to their hand and you kind of form it on their hand. And I colored it with the makeup, put in big gashes, put on some blood. And at first glance, it looks gnarly and awesome.
So the setting spray, didn't use it because...
Not on his hands. I didn't think it would do anything.
You just didn't think it needed it? Was that the idea?
Yeah.
But is it...
Because
what's
the
it
star
for?
wax is like...
for heat? Or is that just what we learned?
Setting spray is just for makeup in general.
Because you're going to sweat? Is that what it's for?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just like going throughout a day, if you're wearing a full face of makeup, randomly touching your face and pretty much just existing, your makeup will start to fade or smear and things like that. So setting spray is just like hairspray for your face.
Okay.
But his hands, we've got these big lights going and they got so hot and he's moving because he has to. And so the scar wax kind of starts to melt and it just started sticking to everything.
Well, he was getting hot too. I mean,
in
most of his scenes, he's wearing a jacket, like a heavy Carhartt knockoff jacket.
Well, and his hands are shoved into his coat pocket in the beginning. So he pulls them out. They're getting hot in the coat pocket. They're getting hot under the lights. He pulls his hands out of these coat pockets and he's just like taking layers off of his broken, quote unquote, broken fingers.
Yeah, there's plenty of times where he'd be like, all right, cut, your finger's falling off.
Yeah, in like big chunks. So then at some point I used the setting spray and it did help a little bit from helping that top layer of makeup from getting pulled off when he brings his hands out. The best thing I found to set something is HD setting powder, which you can get on Amazon. You can get it anywhere. Spirit, whatever. And I didn't get that until the end of filming, so I didn't actually get to use setting powder until we did Pops' face. And Pops' face turned out way better, again. But I used the scar wax, and I think for bigger wounds in the future, I will stick to liquid latex, and I will make it a point to get face casts made of all the actors.
Face casts?
Yeah, there's a lot of at-home, like, do-it-yourself ways that you can
make a full face cast?
Like, yeah, a full cast of someone's face. And you can get it done in a couple hours. So if we could get that done, I think in the future ahead of time, and then make the prosthetics. Liquid latex is a lot easier to blend into the skin. That was another issue with the scar wax for the bigger wounds on Pops' head. You can kind of see where real skin ends and scar wax begins.
So he was kind of tan, and the wax is very lightly colored. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, any budding young gore artists out there, what did you learn?
I would say take the time to play with a lot of different mediums as you can and be able to take your time. We had such a tight schedule on everything we did that just wasn't going to be an option for a lot of...
I think that's how film is, from what I'm learning.
Yeah, it's just not really an option for a lot of what we did. And as a newbie, I definitely needed more time. But
I know you did some research on some books too.
Yeah.
Don't you have a reading list that you're going to go through?
I've got a reading list I'm going to go through.
Share it. Let's learn. I don't want to learn, but someone else might.
Well, I'm going to get special effects makeup by Janice Vinther, special makeup effects by Vincent Kehoe, and then stage makeup, the actor's complete step-by-step guide to today's techniques and materials by Laura Thudium. You can get them all on Amazon.
They went all out with the titles.
Yeah,
they wanted
very
to captivate
detailed.
You. Good. I would like to throw out a recommendation for a script writing book. I don't remember what it's called.
The Coffee Break Screenwriter.
That's the one. I read part of it. It got me to a point where I had fleshed out the characters well enough that I could finish my story without finishing the book. I will finish the book. But it's a really cool book. It has lots of different exercises. If you have writer's block on a character or a scene, or you're one of those people that can you only have a scene in your brain. You're like, I just got this scene and I need to tie it to this other scene. Or you might only have one, or you don't have an ending. It can help you get there through different exercises. And I know exercises are super lame. It feels like a textbook, but this one's kind of fun. And you can get in the individual ones. The idea is that you can do them in like 15 minutes.
Another big shout out.
Check it.
Or recommendation I would make for special effects makeup is there is a YouTube channel that I referred to quite often. It was Max SFX Makeup on YouTube. I think they're a Swedish group. They are
Swedish.
Yeah, they do everything in English, but they are awesome. They make it really simple, step by step, and it's just really encouraging. And they have some of their own products that you can get. So highly recommend Max Special Effects Makeup.
I think one quick tip too is that you can never have enough blood. Fake blood. Yeah. I was always finding myself without enough fake blood. And maybe it's because we just brutally murdered like 4 people in the film. But just don't skimp out. Buy the gallon blood right when Halloween ends, because then you can get it. And then, I don't know where our imaginary viewers, listeners live, but we don't have a Halloween or effects store in town.
Not year round.
No, we only have that stuff in Halloween. So
if you buy liquid latex from a Halloween store, open it in the store.
Yeah.
Because my first go around, I bought a thing of liquid latex and it was completely solidified. And then another hack that I figured out on my own.
What'd you call
for for blood effects, because a big thing we kept running into was the blood would dry and we would have to reapply, and then it would go down their face in a different way, and it just wasn't consistent. Mix some clear lip gloss, like the Victoria's Secret kind that's thick and stays wet forever. Mix that with a little bit of blood, and it keeps your blood glossy and wet. And it smells like mint, So Rich, didn't have any complaints.
And
it's skin safe.
Turn your movie in black and white. Use chocolate syrup. I just came up with that. That was all me.
Definitely not a world-renowned film director that did that.
Steve Drake. That's known as his hit.
Not like Steve Jerks. Not Alfred Hitchcock or any of those greats. They would never think of something that ingenious.
Maybe. One thing. This is off topic. Not really. I saw this on Instagram. Maybe I can look it up later, but there is this really cool clip, and it's very old. It's black and white. It might be before there was sound in movies, but there's this woman, and she's sitting there, and she looks normal and like pretty. It's black and white, and then all of a sudden the lighting changes, and she looks like this fucking ghoul monster.
I've seen
and you're just like, what? This is not from 19 whatever.
No,
this is like brand new. And what they had done is, since they knew they were using black and white film, they just did 2 sets of makeup on her face, and then they just changed the color of the light. And so the light...
And that brought out a different layer.
It brought out this different layer. After seeing that clip, I've always wanted to somehow utilize that in our benefit. But I think we would have to use black and white to make it work. And in this day and age, it's not impressive at all. You're still like, okay, that's just makeup.
It's still cool.
It's so cool. We'll try to find a link.
Yeah.
Later. Sorry, guys. But that is cool. You should check it out.
Yeah, you can do a lot on a film with your makeup effects, and I'm excited for the next project to just keep honing that skill, because I am surprisingly interested by it. So
what?
Just being able to make people look real fucked up.
Yeah.
And I want to get more into the monster-esque type, because I think I just prefer practical effects and costume over digital.
Okay, talk to people how we mixed practical and digital effects in our film.
So for makeup and blood, we tried to keep as much of it as practical as we could. There are a few scenes where people get shot, and so we've got some blood spatter and things like that. And one thing in particular that comes to mind is Curtis. Curtis gets offed, you guys. He gets shot right in the fucking head.
Right in the dome.
So for that scene, we filmed the scene without a bullet wound on his head. Then we filmed it again with like a bullet wound on his head.
We did, but I didn't use the shot without the bullet hole.
Oh, right. So Steve had just masked the bullet hole that was on his head out.
Because I only had to match it for like 3 frames.
Yeah.
Or something, maybe a little bit more, but
super short. So we do the scene. He's got a bullet hole on his head the whole time, and we had this contraption.
Let me describe this contraption that we got from the pawn shop. It's a little, could have been Coleman or something, but it was it was a home garden sprayer. It's like a little, 2-gallon garden sprayer. You pump the top, and it's got a little nozzle on the end, and then a long tube with a little thing at the end that sprays it's for weed killer, I think. And you spray it on your lawn when you release the trigger. And I had seen a guy online somewhere rig one of these up to then be kind of like a squib, because our original idea was we were going to take and just work firecrackers in, and just, I guess my first idea was just to layer people with cardboard and strap explosives to them with some sort of blood capsule that would blow up.
Very safe.
I've never tried that before, which is surprising given all the stupid nonsense I used to do. But after I saw this video, I thought this was definitely the safest way to go with real people who I care for. And so all you got to do is you get one of those little weed sprayers, and you can get one for like $20. Yeah, I think even brand new. There was one on the shop that Dave gave me. And then you go to like Home Depot, you get yourself some tubing, and you take off the spray, the nozzle, and attach the tubing with a little clamp tube or tube clamp right to the tip of the little grip release. And then on the end of that, you make it as long as you want to, and you should probably make it pretty long because you're probably going to like snake it up a leg, like a pant leg or whatever. And at the very end, you cap it off. You can get a little cap for your tubing at Home Depot or whatever. And then you cut a little V notch, like 3 inches from the end. And that little V notch, man, it's just going to like splatter blood everywhere. And I never really figured out a good ratio here, as you can tell by the amount of blood that volcanoed out of Booger's foot. I don't know if there's that much blood in a foot, but I doubt it. But we would take, we would mix in a little bit of water with the blood, and you just pour it in a funnel right down that V notch that you got. And you don't wear anything you don't want to be red forever. Get a lot of plastic, like Dexter level plastic, lay it everywhere because the thing is unpredictable. But it looks, I think, pretty good. And we used it 3 times, or 4 times, 5 times, 5. We used it, we snuck it down Booger's. Well, there's a very awesome photo. Josh's hand and arm is in the pant leg, and his hand is holding the tube in the shoe that we've cut a hole in. And his whole hand was like dyed red at the end of this. And the first time we tried it, we didn't pump it enough, and it just sort of like burbled out like a fudge chocolate cake. And I'm like, well, that's not how a foot that gets shot looks.
Yeah, we wanted it to have some projectile blood because it was getting shot with a projectile.
Well, not even only that. It was like a 45 long Colt from like 2 feet away.
Range.
This thing has to like bomb. And the first time I think we pumped it, maybe, God, I thought 30 was kind of my bread and butter range, but it could have been maybe we had something off with the ratio of blood to water. So it was like, okay, we'll try it again. And then we're like, pump it like 60 times. And so Rachel's there pumping this thing 60 times, and I'm laying under a plastic tarp, and Josh is just like shielding his eyes. We ruined his hat.
He's got no pants on.
And he's got no pants on because I'm wearing his pants because we used my pants to be Booger's pants. And don't ask why.
Josh wasn't willing to sacrifice his real life pants.
Oh, and I was. Yes, that's why. So I was wearing Josh's pants. His arms were in my pants. I was under a tarp, and his hand was in a shoe. And Rachel's just pumping in the background.
Which the tube goes like between Josh's legs. So he's like bent over in his underwear. I'm sitting behind him. My face is like ass level, and I'm just pumping away.
Yeah, we're in like a 25 square foot bathroom.
Yeah.
And yeah, we pumped it like 60 times, and the thing just erupted, as you can see in the movie. And I think we were all pretty bamboozled. I mean, it got all over the ceiling. It was all over everything. The entire room was just basically like, covered in this blood. Sorry, Grandpa. He's the landlord.
He sold the building.
He sold it. He's fine. But so that was the situation. Yeah, you should work on it a little bit, like maybe in your garage to get the pumping level out. But 30 seemed pretty good. We used it in the Jay scene at the very, very end where she offs the dude with the hatchet. That was a lot of blood. But I think that ended up being
it hits
right
an
about
aorta.
Right. Yeah. And then when Dave gets shot in the dome, like Rachel's saying, we snuck it up the back of his head. And don't look too close because it sort of, the bullet enters his forehead, and obviously
blood comes from the base
as
of
bullets
his neck.
do, it could ricochet. That happens, and then exits sort of near the base of the
spinal
skull.
column.
So don't look too close at that one. But it worked okay because we mixed a little bit of digital and practical there. So the practical effects that you see in that particular shot are the bullet hole that's created on his forehead, and then there's blood that splatters on the wall behind him. That's all the practical effects that are in that scene. We mixed it in with a little bit and masked it with a little bit of like a blood plach that went behind him. And then I went frame by frame and I keyed in just a little bit of a blood drip.
Yep.
So that was that scene. And I think just mixing them subtly can really enhance. But don't rely on one or the other.
No.
Because the one's very difficult to pull off on a limited budget super well. I'm talking practical. And then it seemed like the digital stuff, if you just rely on that, you're going to come off and it's going to look like Sharknado.
Yeah, it looks very low budget is the problem either way if you rely on just one.
Yeah.
If you mix them, I think it's kind of a healthy balance and it looks more realistic.
Totally.
I will say one of the biggest compliments I got from doing the makeup is when we did a photo shoot for one of our posters where Lanny is drowning in pills. And Rich Ledoux, the guy that plays Lanny, had his 3-year-old son with us that day.
Oh, yeah. We did not know.
And I did his makeup to look real, real gnarly. And he went up to his son to just kind of like let him know, like, hey,
man.
I'm okay, but this is what my face looks like right now. So when you see me, don't freak out.
Yeah.
And his son just went, what happened? And that was just the cutest, best compliment ever. I can trick a 3-year-old.
Any 3-year-olds that come to our movie are going to be petrified.
Yeah. And then the second one was the gentleman that plays Pops. His name is Chris Enos. He gets pretty messed up in the face. And during the premiere, his son came and told me, like, it was unsettling for me to see my father like that. So I'll take it.
Kevin also. We used the rig on Kevin for him to die.
We owe him some pants.
We do owe him some pants. Real quick, rank the deaths of everyone. Who died the best?
Ooh. Okay, on acting ability?
Both. Everything.
Or like gory, fucked up death?
I don't know. I was pretty lit when we watched at the premiere. But I think Dave's scene is the coolest as far as someone dying on screen and the
it's because
effects being pretty good.
You see like his eyes blink one final time before he fucking drops.
I was just really proud of how that all came together. I mean, that was literally like a $20 effect.
Yeah.
Like, come at me, anyone in the world who can make a better head getting capped for $20.
I would say in third place, fourth place, I would put Clay dying. Because Clay doesn't really know he's about to die.
And he gets a body shot.
Yeah.
So.
Does he?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you don't really see, right? Clay gets his head bashed in by a safe, and so you assume he's dead. And he comes wandering out of the back, and a thug with Jay shoots him. And what's pretty gnarly about that is his blood splatters all over the face of his big brother.
Poor guy.
That's fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would say Curtis. This is the hardest one for me. Between Curtis and Kelly, they're dying. I think that Kevin Moriarty came back and did a phenomenal job dying. And when he hits the ground and his eyes are just open, I swear I see them glass over and his soul leave him on his acting side.
Dude, he sold it with me when he starts almost touching it.
Yeah, he reaches
he
up,
falls to his
shaky.
knees. Yeah, and he's almost like
he's scared.
He's scared. This dude's gonna fucking die, man.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
But he looks up at the last second at the guy that kills him,
and
he just
curls his lip a little bit.
He snarls and then hits the floor. And when he hits the floor, I swear to God, I can see Kevin's soul leaving his body.
I saw a concussion entering his body by all the times he smacked the ground.
Yeah, and he did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Character-wise, I think Curtis had the cooler death because he's got that that delay blink, something's still firing in his brain, but not for long. And then all of a sudden it's just lights out and he falls.
Because he knows he's not getting out of there. From the second he sees Jay, he drops a bandana and he's like, whatever, man.
Fuck. Yeah.
But I don't think he knew when it was coming.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
But I think that what takes the cake is Rich Ledoux's performance as Lanny Green. You should have watched the movie if you're listening to this podcast. He offs himself. He finds himself backed in a corner, and he is in a situation where he just can't win. And So he puts a gun to his head and click, there's no bang. But it was like in his face, you can see he realizes the click was no bang. But that means in his face, you see him realize this next click is really lights out. And he does it with that much more purpose and intensity. And he just cringes a little bit at the last second. And then the screen cuts to black. And I can see his like crystal blue eyes forever in my brain just welling up. And it's just, it haunts me.
That scene's been... yeah, I think everybody's pretty proud of that scene. Not that he's dead, but even from like the day we shot that was one of the first. That was the wait, hold on. That was like the second scene I think that I had put together in a rough cut that I was showing people, and it was kind of like there's no score, there was no. I don't even think there was a bullet sound effect yet, but just at the end it was like click, and then it was click, and you just hear him exhale.
Yeah,
and it was just like, oh. Fuck.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Brutal.
And that was one of those scenes, I know with you we talked about eventually we had to start thinning out the amount of people that we would let on set to be there. And that was one of those scenes where it was like, if you are not absolutely crucial to this, you cannot be there. And it eventually, in filming, I started to feel like I was the bad guy before we started limiting the amount of people on set, because I felt like I was always the person being like, get off your phone or silence your phone. You know, you can't walk around while we're filming the scene. We can hear your footsteps. Stop, you walked into the shot. Like, I can hear you giggling. And it just ended up being where I was eventually the person being like, shut the fuck up or get the fuck out.
There was a lot of that. A lot of shutting up. One thing I want to ask you, Rachel. Is there any point in this wild, dark comedy that you were concerned we weren't gonna pull it off?
There was one point in time.
What?
And it was when we experienced the most terrifying event of our careers.
What was that?
Well, I think we're gonna wait for Drake
to
tell that story. Stay tuned.
Double spoiler or trailer.
That was teaser.
Teaser.
There was a moment where we were a little worried about some things, but outside of some issues in that world, I never ever once thought that this would suck.
That this would suck?
No. I never thought it would suck.
Well, like okay. Dave walks in here, says no more punch up. And I don't think you didn't know about this.
No,
script.
You had not told me you were writing a movie.
I didn't tell anybody about the script. So you hear about my wild idea to make a movie at the same time Dave does. What are you thinking? Yeah. You're like, okay, we have this big year planned for the business. We're going to make all this money.
Right. We had some lofty goals set for Single Six Media in the year of 2019. For the year of 2019. And all of a sudden, Dave's telling us, I'm shutting down the pawn shop. And I thought, well, that's really sad. I feel like that's a big part of my friendship and my work relationship with Steve. And then Steve goes, well, I want to make a movie, and it's going to be in the pawn shop. And I was like, what? What? And I was thinking about it, like, I don't know what he means by any of that. And then a couple days later, we were all at a friend's house, and Steve comes up to me and goes, I think I'm going to take a couple months off of work to make this movie.
Oh, yeah, I forgot I said that. Yeah,
and
that's silly.
I immediately was like, how the fuck am I going to do this whole business by myself? Because I was the secondary in this business all the way up until this last year. And there were very few things that I felt like I did without you. And so then all of a sudden, you want to make a movie and take a step back. And I was just like, what? And I think eventually you came to the conclusion that you asked me, you're like, we make this a Single Six Media project, or Single Six Media has something to do with this project, or I'm going to be gone for a couple months. So yep. I obviously took let's get Single Six Media involved, because I don't think I could do Single Six Media without you.
That was a bluff. I didn't have any video cameras to make the movie with.
Oh, yeah. His filming schedule was hard with Single Six Media and running a business. It would have been much more difficult if every weekend he was texting me being like, hey, can I use the cameras this weekend?
Also, hey, I've been putting ketchup on people's face, and it seems to be causing some sort of weird rash. Do you have any better ideas?
So I think a big part of just the support that Single Six Media gave, I think, in the film, a big part of that support was me having to take a bigger role in the company so Steve could focus more of his energy on making sure Hocked was decent and successful. Hocked.
So, moral of the story, start a video production company. Find someone to take over your video production company, and then strong-arm them into helping you make a movie.
I did not take over the video production company.
Yeah, all right. Well,
I kept it alive in moments where you weren't here.
Yeah. Yep. Is there anything else you'd like to say about this movie, Rachel?
I've never been challenged in the way that Hocked challenged me. I'm very glad that I didn't just crumble under pressure and tell you I didn't want to be a part of it.
I wouldn't have listened to you anyway.
Oh, God. I think it made me a better videographer. I'm better at my job with Single Six Media.
That is true.
Because
how many times do we film the scene where the handgun comes out of the cubby in TFB?
I fucking hated that. I have horrible depth perception, and trying to find focus between like a viewfinder and real life can be a challenge for me. I have horrible eyesight.
Well, you're working with a very razor thin field of view there, because
we got very low f-stop.
Well, you were like the lens was cranked all the way up, and like you're real close to it. Yeah, goodness gracious.
Yeah, if he ever made a even slightly different movement than the take before, felt like a completely different person was moving the gun. So we had to do that quite a bit. And yeah, if Steve is on screen, I'm behind the camera.
And just getting upset.
Real pissed.
That we cannot get this one little shot.
Yeah, or, they're like...
Rachel,
joking around.
Why can't you get this?
Every time Josh turns around and it reveals Steve's face, he's making a fucking weird face.
There were 2 times... Well, I made the weird face because we could not keep breaking. And I don't really know why that scene was so funny. But the scene where
the stripper,
I say
wire strippers.
those wire strippers are worth $4.
But he kept saying those strippers are worth $4.
Well, I also said that, but I would follow it up by, in the movie, it's like those strippers are $4, or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I kept saying I wanted the line to be, these wire strippers are $4. Cheap strippers.
Yeah.
But then Josh kept laughing, and we could not get through that scene.
God.
You were getting real upset.
It was like 2 12-year-old boys seeing a nipple for the first time.
Yeah, cheap strippers.
Ugh.
The other scene, though, I don't remember what was so funny.
Andrew was there.
But he kept turning because he's like, it's probably got Lanny's favorite nudes
on it. And he turns and it reveals Steve's face.
And he turns out, and I'm like, just wipe it.
Yeah.
And put it back with the others. And I could not say that. And Josh couldn't keep it together. I don't know why.
And at one point, like, it finally started to work. And all of a sudden, you were like making freaking antlers on your head and sticking your tongue out and being like, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I thought if I overdid it and everyone got a good laugh out of it, we could just like crack it out the next time.
No, it probably took like 14 takes just for him to turn and reveal your face and you say the line, just wipe it and put it with a camera that's already out for sale.
Yeah. I think we ended up doing that scene a different day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first few times we tried it, it was like 10 o'clock at night. And then the time we actually got it, it was daylight.
Whoops.
Yeah, but No, I had to learn a lot of patience with myself and my cohorts. And then another big part was doing some design. That I'm not a very... I like to do design. I like to mess around in Photoshop and Illustrator and things like that when I know what I'm looking for, when I have a clear idea in mind of what I want to make.
And I always give you a very clear idea of what I want you to make, Rachel.
I've gotten good at translating to myself what Steve wants. Because he's very, very particular, which is part of why the movie is so good, is because we had to redo a bunch of stuff a bunch of times because it had to be right. But there would be times where I would put like 4 hours of work into one little thing, and then he'd be like, that looks okay, but can you try it like this? And that meant undoing the last 4 hours of work and redoing like 6.
That's fine, but can you do it more like how I want it? And I really have no basis of understanding how Illustrator and Photoshop work. And very often I'll like try to explain what I want, but in Final Cut terms. It's like, okay, well, can't you just like grab a little point and distort it? Or like, it's ignorant. It's like someone speaking a completely different language to try to explain what they want to you. It was silly.
It was tough. But yeah, and then
we'd be sitting there. I'm like drawing pictures. Like, just for instance, Kevin's face on the graphic in the bumper sticker. It was like all of them were going so well, and it's like, oh, that's me. Oh, that's Booger. Oh, that's Beer Can Rub. That's that's perfect. And then it was like, oh, that's Richard Nixon. What, Rachel? What are you doing? And you're like, no, it's Kevin. I'm like, no, that's Richard Nixon. Let's change him. And we do like all day long.
It took a whole day to do Kevin's face on the Faces of Hocked bumper sticker.
Would you spend 2 days on all that?
Probably.
And one day was everyone else?
One day was everybody else.
And one day was me standing there being like, no. What? His head's shaped like a light bulb.
He kept saying that.
Well, just with his hair and his head and the image, and he looked like...
Well, his hair and his head are different things. You know, you make it in layers. It doesn't matter.
I'm just saying. We got it.
Yeah.
Kevin, I would like to apologize to you right now, and I will in person. We're sorry that you're the only person with gray hair on the sticker. Dave and Rich also have gray hair, but we didn't put it into the sticker because Kevin was last. Sorry.
Well, and... it was just made Kevin easier identifiable.
With black hair, he looked like Richard Nixon. I swear to God.
Yeah, it was weird, but...
it was the nose and the hair. We had to tweak his nose. His nose is very un-Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it looked Richard Nixon. And the black shape of his head and the hair, he's just like...
it was something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think the last big hurdle that I had was some just... production red tape.
Yeah,
dealing with that.
I feel like I knew we were going to run into that, and I quickly handed it off to you.
Thank you.
Because this is what happens. I handle it, and someone says, you can't shoot a blank on the top of the parking garage. And I say, okay, we won't. And then we go and shoot a blank on the top of the parking garage. That's just how I operate, and I ask for forgiveness later. But if you do it, you stick it out, you follow the rules, and eventually it just gets done the right way. And that's something that I appreciate and I knew I could not handle.
Well, I also feel like Steve's right. He's the kind of person that if he's told no, he'll find a way to do it anyway and then just ask for forgiveness.
I just wouldn't have asked in the first place.
And when it got close to the wire for the premiere, he was at the point where if it did not have something to do with like burning a Blu-ray or getting a copy of the film to the venue, he was not going to make a fuss. And so
I was tired.
Day of premiere, I'm calling people and I'll go total mom mode. I'm not a mom, but I'll go total mom mode and I will call and yell at somebody and lecture them and make sure that they change something to get it right. And we're not going to name names, but I'm just saying if somebody pays you for something, you better do what you're being paid to do. And you better do it the right way.
Rachel's coming to break your knees.
Yep.
Got a question for you. Who wins, Booger or Bobcat?
Bobcat.
Why?
110% will win. I mean, if you saw the movie, you see the argument, you hear the argument that Steve makes. And I believe in it 100%. Also, I was there when the real life debate happened, and I'm pretty sure we looked up a YouTube video of a bobcat fucking up some deer.
Like a full-grown deer.
Yeah, fucking them up.
Yeah.
And I agree with Steve. Deer are much faster and stronger than Booger. He's going down, dude. Going down.
Hard.
Well, that's it for this week. Let's talk Hocked next week on Hocked Unloaded. Next week, we're joined by Jalen Sylvie. She was instrumental in both pre-production and production. Jay talks about not only her role in the film, but her experience as the assistant director, acting coach, and her help with the character development. Keep up to date on all the Hocked things that we're doing and where we're doing them by following us on all the major socials @HockedTheMovie.